we have just some firecrackers. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Carl. I'm a Bob Ross certified painting instructor. I thought today we'd do a beautiful landscape painting with just fan brushes. Let's go up to the canvas. I would like to thank everyone who watches my videos. I can't believe I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers, so I greatly appreciate it. Up here I have a 12 by 16 canvas. It's a little smaller than I normally do just because we're using fan brushes. Let's start with this guy. I'm going to go with the big fan brush. Again, you could do this with the small fan brush. It would just take a little longer. You certainly could change the size of your canvas. I'm going to go into a little bit of titanium white, maybe down here. So this is the larger of the fan brushes. And I'm going into some phthalo blue. There, I'm just going to do some X strokes. Now, sections of the painting will potentially take longer just because we are using a smaller brush, but I just wanted to show that it is possible to paint beautiful scenes, a beautiful landscape with very minimal materials. And because we have the liquid white on there, it's going to mix and blend. I don't know, maybe we'll kind of go down a little bit below half, around half, that's fine. Just reloading, and again, the more you go over it, the softer it'll get. So I'm just doing X strokes. And the fan brush is a very versatile brush. There's a lot we could do with it. Again, this is the larger fan brush. Just mixing and blending. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a little bit more of the straight phthalo blue, maybe even a little bit of black, just to darken maybe the corners. Yeah, I like that. Same brush, not too much, very little paint. Just different actions in the sky. Look at that. But usually when things are darker in the corners, it draws your eye towards the center of the picture. I have the smaller fan brush, little titanium white, and I'm going to scoop a little bit and grab a little bit of the black, maybe a gray color. I think we'll do some shadows. You know, maybe right there. And I'm going to use the corner of the brush. And so this is a grayish color. Ooh, I like that. And I'm just doing little circles, kind of circular strokes. And let your clouds be free. There. Now, since it is a gray color, you might not be able to see it well, but we'll go back in with some light. And who knows, maybe over here. And I'm really wanting this gray color. This will be more of the base. So just a little hint of shadows. Maybe this one comes right up there. You know what? Yeah, let's be wild right here. Maybe this one really goes off the canvas. They're a little bit more black, a little bit more shadow, little circular strokes. I have a lot of fan brushes going, so I'm going to flip over to a clean one. Titanium white, right above where we had the shadows, and watch this. Little circles, and we just want to focus on that top edge. Look at that. Wow. Yeah, maybe this one comes here. Maybe it comes right down there. Who knows, this side? Just like that. Just some happy clouds floating in the sky. Oh, this is a kind of a big, powerful cloud. There. And I'm going to take the brush that I did the sky with, the kind of the background, and I'm going to very softly, corner of the brush, I'm going to start mixing and blending kind of between the gray area and the highlight area. Not too much, not too much. Soft, soft. Just here and there. Very soft. Now, when you have these bristles here, often I leave them, but if you go across against them, your bristles will pick them out. So that's one. So here's one right here. There. One little trick. We'll fluff our clouds. And then 2 hairs and some hair. Very soft. I don't mind some of the little bristles coming through. I don't mind it. But that quickly, we have these happy clouds, just the fan brush so far. And let's move to the next layer. So I'm going into, I have the small one here. This one just had some of the shadow color of the clouds. And we're going to go into a little bit of phthalo blue, titanium white. I want this to be definitely on the lighter side. Hint of sap green. Some distant foothills. Let's see how this looks. Oh, I like that. Far away. And I don't want a lot of detail. Way far away. And as I'm doing this, even if it gets a little bit like right in here, the lines are a little softer, that's okay. I want that illusion. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that sky brush again, and I'm going to wipe it on a paper towel. If you can clean it, that would be a great idea, but make sure it's very, very dry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just soften kind of the base. I don't have a 1-inch or a 2-inch brush, so I'm going to really work the base to create that illusion of mist. And who knows, maybe we'll lift up at the top. Distant trees. But I really want this to soften and float. Look at that. Down here, I think I'm going to take that large brush again. This was the sky brush. And let's go into a little bit of blue and titanium white and a very, very small touch of green. What I'm going to do is go straight across. There. Now don't worry where it is right now. I think we're going to have some bushes on this left side, but there's not a whole bunch of paint here. And again, we have the liquid white on there, so I'm just going to hold this water and then just soften just like that. We're going to start moving forward. I'm going to take a little bit more of the blue, a little bit more of the green, and a hint of white. And then this time we're going to start doing some trees. So I'm going to tap vertically. I'm just tapping vertical. Maybe there's some distant trees way in the back. And reload. I don't need a whole bunch of paint. There. Who knows, maybe they come down a little bit. We're just going to do a bunch of layers here. Way far away, just tapping. And maybe this side will bring it up a little bit higher. Here we go. Fan brush with the that was the water. And again, we're just going to start mixing and blending the base. Try not to go up too much into the trees. Stay towards the bottom part. The one thing I do see here is I'm going to still lift up. Straight up. Careful. Make sure you start down into the tree and then you can lift up. And that'll help just create that illusion of a little softness, bring the treetops vertical. There. And then we're going to just mix and blend. Now I see some different layers back here. Let's take that same color that I had that tree. Let's take a little bit of black. Not much. I added a tiny bit. And maybe back here, we'll just put just some indications. Way far away, just some things happening. And then we can pull some reflections. And then I'm going to go back to that fan brush. This is the water fan brush. Just soften. And you know what we can do? I'm going to take a little bit of sap green, a little bit of ochre. Let's bring in some Indian yellow, a lighter olive green color. And just here and there, we just have some distant things happening. And I can pull some reflections, but they're way far away, just like that. And then I'm going to clean my fan brush. I'm going to go into a little bit of liquid white. We're going to have a soft touch, maybe a hint of black. And notice I moved off my pile here. Now I want to do a water line. Now normally I do the knife. And I'm just gonna lightly touch, maybe slide ever so slightly. There. That gives some indication of maybe there's a water line or something like that. All right, I'm going to go into that same kind of turquoise color. Let's start making it a little bit more green. So I'm going to bring some black over here. So just load the brush both sides and get her tapping her trunk. Wow, and just push both sides. I'm kind of tilted. And then as I go down, more pressure. But look at as we start building these layers, it pushes those distant layers way far in the distance. That's what I want. Yo, that's a big one right there. Look at that. Corner of the brush. And you're tapping more towards the trunk, and then you start branching out. You don't want to branch out too quick. There we go. And you know what I see here? I kind of feel like I need to bring, let's go into a little bit more of that blue color and a little bit of white. Let's bring that water over here. So I'm tapping in some of the base color. Maybe we have some bushes here. Maybe they come right out there. There we go. And then we're gonna reflect some color. Pull straight down. Straight down. Water brush. Just kind of soften the reflections. 2 hairs and some air. Go across. There we go. Okay, we're going to go into, so if you need to clean your fan brush, go ahead and do that. But I want to go into a little bit of highlight color. So we're going to highlight these trees, a little bit of liquid white. I'm going to go into some cad yellow, a hint of blue, and we'll just start highlighting. There. As it gets lower, we want it to be a little bit darker. Think of all the different branches. There. And we're gonna put in a little bit of a water line. I'm going into some Van Dyke and dark sienna. This is a shoreline. Maybe this kind of just slides right on around here. Who knows, maybe it goes up into the bushes. There. Just scrubbing in some color. And let's go into some different yellows. Maybe for these highlighted bushes, maybe we have some different yellows. So I'm just going into some Indian yellow. Ooh, this will be fun. We're going to try some different style of bushes. So. Corner of the brush. And I'm just going, like I said, just the corner. We can get some really cool details. Maybe we'll change the flavor with a little bit of ochre. Now, because I am going over a fair amount of paint, I want it to be a little bit thinner. And then reload if you're finding it not sticking well, or maybe you're running out of paint. Ooh, there we go. And leave some of those darks. Look at the layering. There. Look at those layers. And I kind of see something there. I'm going to go back to that highlight green color and maybe a little cad yellow. I see some grasses down there. So right down in here, maybe just some little grasses. I'm going to push up. And that'll change the texture compared to those bushes we did. I'm kind of pushing upward. There. And I'm pretty much going to go into we're going to do a water line. Pretty much some liquid white on the fan brush, not too much. And let's put a few little indications right out there. One trick is you can touch and then you can kind of blend it. And look at that, quickly we created a little middle ground with just a fan brush. Black, a little bit of blue, and a lot of sap green. I did go to a bigger fan brush. You don't have to. There. Corner of the brush. There's a big tree. And as we get forward, it's a little darker. Maybe this one comes all the way down. Right there. And then who knows? I'm just going to scrub in some color right here. Maybe I'll go a little bit darker. There we go. Just scrubbing in. I'm using the big fan brush. There. Maybe there's one right. Maybe there's one. We just see the tops of it. And then corner. There. So we don't see too much, but we can tell there's something right there. I'm gonna bring this up higher. There. Maybe there's grasses and all sorts of stuff. Some brown color. Maybe we'll go into a little bit of the white. Look at that. It just added a little indication of a tree trunk. And I want to mix up some of that yellow mixture. We're going to highlight our tree. There, and think of the different branches as they come down. There, look at that. Looks just like layers in an evergreen. Wait, that one's just getting a little bit right there. Now what I want to do here is I want to maybe do some layers. Let's have some fun with some layers. So I'm going to go into some sap green over here. Let's pull a chunk of it right there. Now I've got kind of this base color, but maybe we'll have just some grasses here. And then we'll have bushes too. So maybe right there just some tall grasses. And by doing this, maybe we can create some different tones. We'll do some variation in tone. And let's start going into some green, and I want to lay some grass color similar to what we have right there. We can start shaping just how the lay of the land is. And I might go back here. I'm just kind of getting some basic color. And I love when you push up, look at the textures it creates. I actually really like those textures. It looks like layers within just in grass. There, look at that. Just pressing, really pressing those bristles, and I'm pushing up again. We'll go into some ochre, maybe a little bit of crimson. That's a fun color. And we'll just tap. And who knows, maybe right here, we got just some different types of bushes growing. Maybe these ones are just hanging down. Kind of this bush, I'm just playing with the brush textures. Just hanging down. And then this one right here, let's do some reds. And watch this, maybe if I just touch here and there. Look at that, just some tall flowers. Right where I did that, I want to add a little bit of shadow. So I went into some black. Just right in here, watch this, down at the base. I just want some indications of some shadows. And I think that'll add some more depth around the flowers. There. And again, if you need to just clean your brushes in between, you can pause my video if you're following along. I'm going to add some more grasses. We're just going to have fun with some of these different styles of grasses. So I'm doing different colors. So I had that base undertone. And who knows, maybe we'll change the flavor a little bit by doing some wisps. Maybe it looks kind of like grasses. That one I want to be careful with. Maybe these ones are kind of orange. We'll go with that more orangey tone. And we'll just touch, just some things happening. So maybe here and there, maybe there's a layer. So a little cad yellow. Maybe there's a layer that comes right down in there. I want it to be a little bit more subtle, but I do want it to kind of go right into some of these bushes back here, just to set them in a little bit. But it's a little darker. There. And who knows, maybe there's some light catching, just going right into some of that cad yellow. And I want to hit some bright spots right in here. There. So I'm really thinning the paint down. And the texture, I like the texture. It stands out to me a little bit better. I kind of want to do the same thing with the red color. And just here and there, I don't want it to be too much, but maybe we have just some firecrackers. With a little thicker paint, I think this will really stand out. There, I like that. There, and then last thing I'm going to do, what do you say we try this? Clean your brush if you need to. This could be a little bit challenging, but we're going to give it a go. We're going to do a little fence, maybe a little fence that fell over. Just in the foreground. So I took a brush and I kind of cleared out some paint. Let's go into a little bit of the brown tone. So I'm mixing dark sienna, Van Dyke brown. And let's go in a little bit more Van Dyke. We have some fence posts that just come across just like that. Let's take a little bit of that red color, sometimes just on the top. And then we'll take some of that dark sienna. I'm going to go into, we have a lot of paint on the canvas. So dark sienna with a little bit of the liquid white, right side. And then maybe we have just a little bit of light. Carefully hitting those. There, and then I'm going to take a little bit of the Van Dyke brown, a little bit of blue. Just a little shadow. The fact that we painted this with just different size fan brushes, I think is pretty incredible. So let's go ahead and sign it. I really hope you enjoyed this picture. You should definitely give it a try. Check out my website at carlvaughnartistry.com. If you liked my content, please give it a like. Happy painting. See you next time.